Have you ever stopped to think about your career, not just as a list of jobs, but as this grand, lifelong journey? An adventure, really, with its own unique stages, challenges, and some pretty amazing opportunities? Well, today, we're going to pull out the map and chart that very course. So let me ask you this right off the bat. Are you the one drawing the map for your professional adventure? Or are you maybe just kind of following a path that someone else laid out for you? It's a really important question, and honestly, how you answer it can change everything. Okay, before we dive in, let's just make sure we're on the same page about what a career even is. It's not just your current job or your last one. A career is the entire sequence of positions you hold throughout your whole life. It's the full story, from that first summer job all the way to your final role. Right. So if your career is the journey, then career planning, well, that's your map. It's the process of really looking at where you are, figuring out where you want to go, and then, mapping out the actual steps to get there. It's all about being the navigator of your own life. So what does this journey usually look like? Well, you can kind of break it down into 6 distinct stages, and each one has its own vibe and its own set of challenges. This timeline here gives us that bird's eye view of the entire trip, from when we're just kids right through to retirement. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. How do we even get our first ideas about what work or a career is? It all starts way back in these really foundational years. It really kicks off in what's called the growth stage, from birth to about 14. This is when we're figuring out who we are by looking at our family, our friends, our teachers. Then, boom, you hit the exploration stage from 15 to 24. This is when things get real. We start seriously looking at different jobs, making those first huge choices about what to study and what path to take. Next up, we get into the real heart of most people's working lives. This is a pretty long and absolutely critical period of finding our footing, building a name for ourselves, and facing some major professional crossroads. The establishment stage, from about 25 to 44, is where the rubber really meets the road. You land a real job, you learn the ropes, you figure out how to work for a boss, and you start making your mark and building your place in your field. But then, you hit your mid-40s, the halfway point for a lot of us. And this isn't just a number, it's a huge transition. So what actually happens when you reach this stage? Turns out the path forward can look very, very different depending on the choices you make. Now, this slide is absolutely fascinating because it shows that this mid-career stage is a massive crossroads with 3 totally different paths. First, you might keep improving, pushing your performance even higher, maybe looking for bigger challenges somewhere else. Or you could maintain that high performance, becoming that super reliable, indispensable expert, the absolute bedrock of the organization. And then there's the third path, where performance starts to decline, which can lead to a lot of frustration. The big takeaway here is that this stage is loaded with high risk, but also some seriously high rewards. All right, so after that big crossroads, what's next? Let's move on and look at the later stages of the journey. And these years aren't about slowing down. Not really. They're about shifting your focus to wisdom, to mentorship, and to a whole new kind of transition. In the late career stage, the whole game changes. You're not really expected to learn a bunch of brand new tricks. Instead, your real value comes from your judgment, from all that wisdom you've built up over the years. You become a mentor, a guide for the next generation. And finally, we get to the decline stage. The source material doesn't pull any punches here, calling it difficult but inevitable. And you can see why. Especially for people who've achieved a lot, stepping away from that central role can be really tough. It's a time of accepting less power, less responsibility, and that's a hard transition for anyone to face. So, we've seen the map of a typical career journey, but how do you navigate your path? It's time to talk about the compass, a practical 4-step plan you can actually use to take control. The whole process starts with 2 key perspectives. You've got to look inward, and you've got to look outward. This slide just nails a core idea. There's how you see yourself, your goals, your skills, and then there's how your organization sees you. And you absolutely need both of those viewpoints to chart your course. And here it is, the full 4-step process. First up, self-assessment. This is where you have to be brutally honest with yourself. What are you amazing at? What do you actually love doing? Where do you want to be? Step 2 is the organizational assessment. This is that reality check. How does your boss see you? What do your performance reviews really say? Then, step 3 is all about communicating your options. Don't just wait for opportunities to fall in your lap. Go find them. Talk to people, see what's out there in your company.
And finally, step 4, counseling. This is where you bring it all together, hopefully with a good manager or mentor, and turn all this info into a real, tangible plan. Each step builds on the last, creating a super powerful tool for your journey.
So there you have it, the map of a career journey and the compass to help you navigate it. We've laid out the stages, the crossroads, and the steps for taking control. The only question left is the one right there on the screen. What's your next step?